Yo, what's going on? Okay, hopefully... Yo. Can you guys hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. Just making sure my audio is working. It doesn't look like it is. Let me know. Let me know if you guys can hear me because yeah, it says that there's no volume. All right, let's see. Maybe that's working. Okay, that should be better. That should be way better. There we go. Let me know if you can hear me, brother. Cool. Volume's good on all around. Sweet. Yeah, I reckon it's probably going to be a few minutes before everyone starts jumping in and all that kind of stuff. But I've actually got, first of all, thanks to everyone who asked questions. I got questions all over the place through Discord and Insta and stuff like that. So I'll probably just get into it. I'll start working through the list a little bit, and then, you know, as people jump in, should be able to check them out and even ask more as we're going along, which would be great. So yeah, so Paquito, his first question was curious about the work on the armor set, both modeling and texturing. Yeah, so the vagueness of questions, like whether it's for game stuff or presentation stuff. So anything that I show, like I'll sort of preface with a little bit of a caveat of whether topology is good or bad, or should or shouldn't be the way, like UVs and stuff as well. Like when I do portfolio pieces, I usually cut corners a little bit. So I'll try to preface that as well. And I also have this super that's at the bottom there. If that gets annoying and people can't see things, let me know, but it just interchanges with some stuff. So let me know if you want me to change it. So I can start with the modeling, I guess. I'll open, this is my file. I had heaps of different files for this, working through the high poly, low poly, posed, all the different sort of variations of the project as it goes. But just generally, you can see here my setup. It's probably a little bit overkill as far as having how many things to have in different folders. Like I would probably be a little bit smarter with the merging and what I would be having so high and so low. But that's, I suppose, just a little bit of, you know, bookkeeping stuff. As far as the actual model itself, how I went about starting it was probably go back to the start, really. A lot of the symmetrical pieces, I don't usually do it in symmetry. Like I would work on one piece and then mirror it over. That is immediately a way to simplify things. But for the most part, a lot of the hard surface stuff, I start with Dynamesh. So I would start with, you know, cube, and just be as, you know, rough with it. Like say it was this piece here, this this little piece here, I would literally like mask off the shape that I want. Let's go mask curve. So I would say don't want that bit, and this is me just being, you know, a bit rough with it. Cool, yep, that. And then sort of just draw the shape. And let's double tap Alt there. Boom. Oopsie. Okay. Something like that. Control W would be to polygroup it. Bit of this. Delete hidden. Cool. So then I've got. Get rid of this. This is the beauty of this like workflow, is that you can just be as jank as you want, really, which is kind of cool. And then just Z-remesh this. And for the most part, I should have smoothed. Yeah, I'll do the smooth groups first. This is another cool trick. For anyone that doesn't know, brush. Oop, don't look at that. Smooth. Smooth groups. And what you can do is you can actually go through and smooth this, so you can get this bit of a cleaner piece. Oh, really stuffed that bit up there in this little demo, but there. Delete hidden. Get rid of this again. Just get rid of that. And obviously you would do this a lot nicer than I've done it here, but so as far as the Z-remeshing goes with hard surface stuff, I actually use a plugin which I can recommend, which is, I've got it here in my toolbar, which is Easy Remesh. And it has just automatic buttons for Z-remeshing hard surface stuff. So what it does is it recognizes hard edges, creases them, and keeps the, it sort of tries to preserve the shape as best as it can. And I mean, you can only do so much with that. So that's Z-remesh at half at hard surface, which is a really cool button, which I love using all the time. So half at half surface, and it just tries to keep its shape the best it can, and just keeps going lower and lower and lower while preserving that border. So short of, you know, going through and tweaking these out and creasing and stuff, that's generally the process that I would do for creating the hard surface bits. And then from here, it would be Z modeler, extrude, you know, polygroup all. There's another plane there. One sec. Just get rid of that. Just delete that. Okay. So extrude polygroup all. So when you're extruding in as well, like when you've got the double face on, like you probably don't know. See, it actually doesn't show properly. So I just flip it back. But if you were to do it the other way around and extrude outwards, this way you'd be fine. And it doesn't matter, like you can turn double off and it'll be sweet. But for the most part, that's how I would approach a lot of the hard surface stuff. And then to get like these nice edges that I had on it. So if I go back to dynamic, you can see a lot of the crease work that I've got on the edges there. So for those people that don't know how creasing works, it's actually very, very helpful for doing hard surface bevels and things uniformly. So the way that I like to do it is, say that this didn't have a polygroup and it was just one single polygroup like this, for whatever reason, if you had a mesh like that, I would either manually polygroup this, so polygroup, polyloop, and then loop that so that these two are different, so that I can crease this polygrouped edge. Or if it is a planar hard surface piece like this, group by normals, and it would recognize that 90-degree change. If it's a lower amount, you can obviously change that number, group by normals. But then when that's grouped, I crease the poly group. So the edge that I want to have that bevel on is creased, and then when you hit dynamic, the smooth, this is where it gets really cool. Smooth subdiv and crease level work together. So these two are sort of in conjunction with each other in the way that they work. So I'll try to get in on this so you can see. As the crease, so right now it's creased to the maximum, 15. So if I bring that crease all the way down, it's going to say, okay, cool, I've got no creases, but I've been subdivided dynamically. Cool. Okay, so say I give it 1 crease. So now it's tightening up a little bit more. 2 crease, cool. I can keep it at 2, but watch what happens when I increase the smooth subdiv. So now it's 2 crease, but 4 smooth subdiv. If I bring that down, now it's all crease, no smooth. So finding a good balance between smooth and crease is really, really cool. So for some pieces, you might want it to be really, really smooth and have a nice tight bevel like this, which I do a lot, especially seeing the Volk stuff is very tight, crisp edges. And that's all done with creasing. So even if you've got like a low, I'll put dynamic back on. Even if you've got a low crease, you can still keep it really smooth. But I feel like that's the best way to manipulate geometry when you're trying to keep it smooth and have crisp edges as well. And then as far as deforming it, as far as deforming the pieces, when I was, conforming it to the body and things like that, another really good tip is this cogwheel in here. I'm sure a lot of people know this. Bend arc and bend curve. I use this all the time with everything because it's very minimal on the deformation of the mesh. Sometimes when you do like a bend arc on something, it'll like blow out the edges and it will stretch a little bit. I feel like this preserves the actual mesh itself. So see these little handles here. The orange one will pull up how many subdivisions you want. Which one's the axis? Is it green? No, red. Yeah, it's the red one. So the red one changes the axis of where the deformers are. So say for this one, I want it just here, and I wanted to make it like bend like this. I would literally just put one in the middle, one on the 2 sides, and pull that bad boy out like that. And again, this is all, non sort of destructive workflow. Like, I mean, that is semi-destructive, but for the most part, 80% of that, you can keep this in the history and come back to it and change it if you need to. But yeah, for the most part, that's pretty much how I did all of the hard surface work. And then Paquito also said on the texturing. So the texturing was a combination. I mean, it's sort of the battle, like always, right? When you're modeling something and texturing something, what do I do in model? What do I do in texture? The beauty of portfolio pieces is you can just do whatever you want and make it whatever. So there's a lot of things that I would have done differently that I wouldn't have had actual geometry for. Like these things are so small, like there's no reason to have that as its own piece of geometry. I actually did end up baking over the top of these. I'll show you the substance scene. But say like this, for example, this is just an IMM brush. So all this detail that I've got on here, I didn't bake this. I didn't bake, the actual geometry here. I can show you the actual mesh in Substance. So in here, let's have a look at the actual mesh itself. You can see there, that's all baked in. So that was just a flat plane that I put over the top. And then bake that detail in. So you can model it in the high poly. Where are we? You can model it in the high poly like this, so actually have geometry, but then just have the low poly built over the top and then bake it in. So let's go back to the Substance Painter as well. So this is, I think I've cranked everything. Yeah, everything's pretty low here because I feel like I've got every program running. It might not last with Substance and OBS and everything running at the same time. So I'll keep it like that. But for the most part, you can see that a lot of the detail that I modeled in ZBrush is just baked into here. So all this low res geometry and all these details and all this stuff all baked in, and it comes out pretty good. So I usually like that workflow of modeling it as opposed to doing it in texture. So I would model everything high poly as I want, and then make a low res mesh and then bake it on. Even for things like nuts and bolts and bits like this, and then have an ID map so that I can select, okay, that one didn't have an ID map. But for all the other pieces, like these little nuts and bolts like this, like say I wanted to put a different material on there, using ID maps for that. So ID maps are pretty much the only way that you can work with that workflow, or separating the meshes to be able to add different things on. When the mesh is just one complete mesh, the only way that you can really get around that is using an ID map. So say we'll use that one for example. Yeah, Substance is chugging. I don't know if I could be doing this if it was in 4K. While streaming. The shoulder strap. I've got to get my head back into this project. It's been a while. Front plate? Was that it? Yeah, front plate. Okay. So on the front plate, for example, say I wanted to, let's get out of this. Because it's all one mesh, say I wanted to, make these nut bolts white. I have no other way to do it other than to add a mask with color selection. And then select that ID map. That's basically the workflow with the low high poly and working with ID maps. It's kind of the only real way to do it. The only other way, if you wanted to not have to bake ID maps because they can bleed and not be 100%. If you just wanted to have like all geometry, you can separate the meshes and import them all have them all under their perspective texture sets, but have them as separate pieces. And that's actually, you can use this little selection box here, and then they come in under here as separate meshes, and then you can just turn on and off the parts that you want, which is another great way to do it. If it just takes a little bit extra prep work, in my opinion, as opposed to just setting vertex color and baking it. Any of these, I don't think any of these really have, I put them all as single meshes. So that's another one to look into, is really cool, is having separate meshes and being able to select them in here. But that's pretty much it as far as the modeling and texturing goes. But yeah, if you jump in, dude, let me know, and I can continue answering anything that I didn't answer there if you want to scrub back and see anything in particular. But thanks, dude. Raf, my boy Rafi. Frank, love the character. I wanted to ask about your lighting setup and presentation. How you approach the presentation in Unreal. So it's funny, this is actually the first portfolio piece that I haven't done in Unreal. Like I usually do everything in Unreal, and I'd never done anything in Marmoset. So I was like, I'm just gonna try Marmoset. So yeah, I actually didn't do this one in Unreal. The next video I would love to, because the current project I'm working on at the moment is in Unreal, and it's super in depth, and Unreal is king. Like, if there's anything that you can take away from this, it's that Unreal is ultimate. Marmoset is awesome for, you know, getting something out and getting it out pretty easily. But for the most part, Unreal is unbeaten in my opinion. So this is the Marmoset scene as far as presentation goes. Pretty simple. I'll get what's going on with his eyes there? It looks weird. Looks a bit strange. Anyway, let's go to perspective. So cameras, lighting, don't worry about all that stuff down the bottom. That's just a bit of I was like, how do you turn the lights on in Marmoset? How do you visibly see it? I know it's G in Unreal, but there you go. Okay, so this is the general lighting setup. Cameras, how many cameras did I have? Handful of cameras. Camera one. Because I think that my favorite thing with Marmoset, I mean, it's the same with Unreal, like as far as it being work with focus and lighting and everything in real time, but it's probably one of the best things from Marmoset, like, is the ease of setup. Like, I just think you're straight in and you're doing it. Anton, what's going on, dude? No, I just started, brother. Basically, I think I've been going for 15-20 minutes or something, but it's gonna be available online after, for sure. So no worries there. If you want to ask a question, I'll get to it and you can see later. But I'll just cycle through the cameras that I set up. A little bit of a wide one, angled one, and they had different croppings and stuff as well. Set some keyframes as well. That Marmoset actually has its own turntable feature that you can just put in, and then you drop the file. So is it this one? Yeah, there's something. It's whatever this node is. You drop the camera into the turntable, and then it pivots around a certain point, and so you can get like a cool little turntable vision like that, which I hadn't done before, hadn't done in Marmoset. I was just like, yeah, again, something that I can learn in here. But to be honest, I just like the stills, man. I really just like going through and art directing with the lights and stuff, as opposed to, you know, filming like crazy animations and stuff. I'm not really giving you much. Let's give you some hot tips as far as lighting and presentation. I think rim lights are extremely underrated. Rim lights are the thing that changes a portrait from being average to good, like really good. I can demonstrate it right now. So when I say rim lights, for anyone that's not familiar, the lights that hit around the edge of a model that pop it off from the background are like a cheat code. So I think even if your model's not looking great or you're not happy with the way it's being presented, like I'll just show you the difference. Like how average does that look? And then the second that you put, you know, a couple of hero bits on it like that, I don't know what's going on with these eyes. They look weird as. Looks creepy. I think there must be a file that's not linked or something. Yeah. Yeah, and then the map looks... Jeez. Rim lights are number one. Second one is coloring lights. I think there's a bit of a stigma behind colored lights and how they're sort of tacky, I think, and I think you can go overboard with it, but like there is a way, and I feel like I sort of have done this here, is where you simulate an HDRI. So you have regular lights that are colored that, see, if I set all this to white, like if I set this back to white, like it looks completely different. It looks completely stark and doesn't really like set in the scene. But if I darken it and make it a little bit more moodier, as if it's like under neon lights or something, and then it's off balance with the right hand side, and you know, you're always trying to work with that asymmetry and trying to, you know, cock things a little bit off kilter, whether it's with lighting or with the model or with texturing, or always just trying to break that, you know, symmetrical look of some kind. Even the headlight, the little head tilt that I've got and things like that is all great ways. But yeah, lighting can do that as well. Even if you've got a symmetrical model, you can actually break it up, the symmetry, with lighting. Dre's, what's going on, dude? Yeah, so Raf, I hope that answers it, man. The Unreal part of it, I didn't do this in Unreal, but the project I'm working on right now, it's probably my best and favorite piece that I've worked on. I actually worked on it with Raf Grissetti. That's all in Unreal, and I'm planning to. I've been trying to make this, you know, crash course end to end with Unreal. There's just so much that goes into it, man. But like, I'd love to go through that next time. But I hopefully answered the rest of it as far as presentation goes, because they go hand in hand. Like, it's the same thing. You would have a thing that bounces light, you would have lights, and you would have a model. It's basically the same thing as far as material setup and lighting and in a scene. I think there's no real secret sauce. No matter if I was rendering this in Maya, if I was rendering it in Unreal, I think the principles are the same. Like, you still need to have, if you have a key light, you need to have a fill light, you need to have a rim light, you need to have, I think all that's the same, but the biggest difference, I think, is the ease of setup in Marmoset, because Unreal, there's a little bit more setup, but I also think you get a better result, a more accurate result, because you can be a little bit more, you can finesse the materials, you can finesse, like here it's very just plug and play, but we will get into Unreal. I'm as you can see, I'm getting way more into this stuff now. I've got some time freelancing a bit more over Christmas, so yeah, let's get more YouTube stuff going. I'll answer more questions, so hopefully I get that next time, dude. Dre, I'll jump in with you there, dude. Hey mate, curious to know how I deal with subsurface, like subsurface scattering. Where's my skin? Subsurface in Unreal, I would have a map, because this was a real easy one to have just light subsurface on. Where's my transmission scatter map? I basically just blocked out the eyes. I blocked out, was it the eyes? Yeah, I painted a black and white map to go in and plugged it into the scatter channel. So in Marmoset, same way as in Unreal, but this is, again, very easy to just have it already there and just plug a map in. I would set it to what I want and what I don't want using the black and white channel, and then you can crank that up, and then like look at that subsurface looks like a wax candle. But basically what you want to do with subsurface is, okay, you want to see subsurface, cool. Now using the map to drive what you do and don't want, which would have been this. And then it's another reason why those rim lights are so good. Like you can just see the pop of the ears, like it's just enough to, give it that little bit of realistic, look of how, ears look behind lights. But for the most part, it's turning on the subsurface scattering, volumetric scattering, and then having a black and white map that says, hey, I do and don't want scattering to be here and not here, sort of thing. And I think it's the beauty of real-time rendering, is that you can back and forth that, because I'm sure there was a version of back and forth when I was doing it, where it's like, oh, that looks shit, or this isn't right, or this has too much subsurface. But you want it in parts, again, it's looking at reference. It's like, okay, what does a male of this kind of facial structure, how much to the lips, how much to the ears, how much to the nose and under the eyes, like that the general stuff that subsurface affects. Yeah, dude. I think this was just like, I think this is like, it was just flooded because of it's just the eyes that I blocked out, because it affects the eyeballs. So I just blocked out the eyes and just did a uniform across the whole thing, only because of my lighting setup. I would have got way more into it. Like if I turn this off, you can't really see. It's like, I think I was having issues. With the scattering or something. I don't remember why I put that in there. I blocked out the eyes, but it was something to do with the scattering fucking up the eyes. But for the most part, my lighting in this wasn't crazy affecting the scattering, and I just had like a slight variance on it. So I mean, usually that wasn't the best example as far as like, you block in and out stuff, but I only just did a little bit. So I mean, that just goes to show you don't really, depending on your lighting setup, I don't know if you really, if it's that super important as far as scattering, but it is good to have a map in there for control. If you're like, this is, I'm getting too much in the cheeks or the eye. You know what? Actually, having looked at this right now, I think there's too much subsurface in the eyebrows. So I probably would have blocked out something in here, because this is a lot deeper of an area. But that's again, portfolio piece. You're just trying to get something out that looks decent. So, but for the most part, that's the process as far as transmission, scatter map, and then just tweak it and art direct it so that it looks decent. I must have thought it looked alright, so I had no reason to change it. But that's how I would approach it, dude. And same in Unreal. When texturing, to use smart materials as a base and build from there or completely from scratch. Also, how did you tackle the LED lights on the shoulders? Okay, let's get back in Substance. LEDs. The only reason that these look decent in Substance is when you turn on, where is it? This is just a little trick for when you're doing emissive stuff. It's turning on post effects here. So if you turn that off, it just looks shit. It just looks like blue. But when you have emission layers and you have an emissive material so a couple of things that how you would, sorry, I'll do the emission part first. How you would have this visible is you need to have, I just saw your thing, Dre's. I've got an answer for that. Just give me one sec. The post effects material, and have a material that can support it, and in your texture set, shoulder strap, I think is this. Shoulder strap, texture set settings. You need to enable an emissive channel. So usually out the gate, metallic roughness material in Substance won't have emissive. So you need to hit the plus here and then plug in emissive. Then when it's plugged in, go into your layers. Then in your light, what you want to do is emission. So then you would tick emission here. Can you see that? Nothing's getting blocked out. I can turn it off just in case. I'll turn that off just for now so that we can see. So I've got my blue light layer. I'll just leave that on because it's just going to shoot itself. Emission. So I've just got color and emission. Texture set settings in the material and then there. So that's how I would handle emissive stuff in Substance, which is all you want to be doing is painting color information, which can just be, in this case, was a fill color. And then let's have a look at my mask. Let's have a look. Okay. Yep. Cool. Glad you asked this then. So what I've got here, this is another really cool way of selecting geometry and masking geometry in Substance. So what I did here, the way that it was modeled, that I actually had the sections that I wanted to be lit. So I'll just jump back to I'll jump back to the start here so that you can see how I've done this. So we'll go back to here. Okay. You know what? Let's do it from scratch. So nothing there. Cool. I've just added my layer. Added my layer there. I've got a black mask. Nothing else. But I've got my blue layer and I'm ready to add white value so I can show my emission. With the mask selected, go over to here to, it's like usually, you've got a brush and you can paint in onto the mask to show what you want. But we don't want that because that's going to be jank and it's going to look shit. So this little guy here, polygon fill, so good. If you've got good topology, you can set this black and white value. So obviously I want white, so I want to show as you can see here, you can marquee select it as well and actually select the polygons in the mask that you want. Sometimes might take a bit longer, might be quicker in some other cases, depending on what your model is. You can also do it in 2D view. Please don't fire me for my ugly ass UVs. But, I mean, look at that. It's a really, really good way the way that I see Substance and mask, everything has a mask and it's like, okay, what is my method of filling that mask? Am I using an ID map? Am I using geometry select? Am I using paint? Like, I'll right click on the mask, add a paint. Okay, so say I wanted to, for whatever reason, add paint to it as well into that mask. It's all about putting a mask and then adding to it and subtracting from it, which is the best non-destructive way that I like to work. Hope that answers it, dude. I think that's a pretty good tip, that geometry selecting polygon fill thing. And then build a base from there. Yeah, no, I have my own set of materials that I've made before. Like I've got my metals, I've got my woods, leathers, things like that I've built. But to be honest, I like to start really simple. Same as modeling. Like I like to start very small and very basic and then build up. So I've got something on everything and then start breaking it down. And then if I like something, then I'll paste it to another part of the model. Or, I'll just copy it and then adjust it and use it for different areas. I think it's sort of like modeling where it's just a process. Like it's just, there's no like one click fix, drag and drop. It's a process of going through it and trying to make it look good and just being patient with it, I guess. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, there's no real secret sauce when it comes to that. Let's get some more tunes going, huh? Just got quiet as. This is my boy AJMW. He's done all the music for pretty much all my videos that I've ever done. Super cool dude. Really good music. So yeah, that's pretty much it, man. I'll just go back to... Let me know if that answers it, if there's anything else you want to know. Started working on a xenomorph. I'm thinking about how I'm going to set the SSS up. So it would be like you could paint the SSS map in Substance. And I'll show you a trick, right? So the way people what you want to do is you want to have a black and white information mask, and I feel like you can utilize Substance Painter as like a program to paint a mask. So let's use this as an example, right? So say this blue area, I wanted to have subsurface scattering. Shoulder strap. Okay, I'm gonna add a map here. Okay, so what you can do is use the channels in Substance to make yourself a map. So I actually do this pretty regularly, like at work and stuff. I'll put a folder at the top and call it masks. So what I would do, say that blue section that we had here before, I get this is not accurate, but say I'm like, okay, I want subsurface in that spot. Same with your xenomorph, like whether it's the ribs or the jawline, wherever the bones are, you want less subsurface because it's close to the surface and whatever. What you would do is have a masks folder, and then in your fill layer, set this to a channel. So stick with me, we call it rough. So all we're doing right now, well, let's do color so we can see it. I'm going to turn the emission off just for now. And just, yeah, quickly, you crank up the emission value? Yeah, but it's sort of irrelevant because it's just in here. So cranking up the emissive, where is it? Emissive intensity. Yeah, so you can crank it up in here. But this doesn't affect the output. So the output just will output a black and white map again. So when you go into Unreal, it goes, okay, this is the part, and then you plug it into the emission channel. Emissive just comes through that little window sort of thing. But yeah, that's how you would crank it up and down in here. So let's turn that off for now. Okay, back to this. So in my mask, I've created a layer and a roughness layer. So let's have a look in roughness. Cool. So what I want to do is give myself a base, which is black. Okay, so this is our mask. I'm going to get even more simplified for you here. Alright. So now we're just looking at the roughness channel, and it's completely black. Alright, so now what we want to do is add white information as a mask, which will be our subsurface. Okay, so we want to keep targeting that roughness channel. So turn all them off, so it's just rough. All the way white. And add a black mask to it. Cool. So now it's like we've got to show me everything and show me nothing. And we're in the roughness. Now you could do this with any channel, but basically what we're doing, we're utilizing a channel to create a black and white map interactively in Substance, which is kind of cool. So now in here, we'll go to again, geometry fill, dodgy. The hotkey for this to toggle black and white is X, same as Photoshop. So you just go blah 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 blah, get rid of this. Okay, yeah, it's gonna take me ages to get that right. Maybe not ages, but you get it. Okay, so I've gone and go through, and I've got now my white information. Now, when you export textures, what I like to do is have a mask template, so it just outputs the roughness channel, and then you have a black and white. So we'll go PBR metallic roughness. Let's just get rid of all these. Roughness, gray channel, whatever you call it. Now, when I export this, it will be a black and white map that I can plug into my SSS, I would call it subsurface scattering. And now your xenomorph, and you can do so now in here, basically what you're doing, add paint, switch back to the paintbrush, you're painting in where, so I don't want it on the ribs, I don't want it here. Now you can export this map as a black and white map and plug it into your subsurface. And to me, that's the easiest way to do it interactively. I feel like that's a fun way to visualize it. And then you could also see it, you could do it with the subsurface channel in here. You could actually, add a scattering channel and then a material that supports it and then visualize it in Substance. But that's how I would get pretty much any map out or any mask. I use that for the red and green and blue channel when I'm trying to block out fuzz or just mask anything really. So utilizing the channels in Substance as to create masks is a really good way of doing that. It's how I do it all the time. So I hope that helps, dude. I think that's pretty cool way of doing it, and I've learned from some pretty cool people that do it that way. So hopefully that helps, bro. All right, sweet. Okay, cool. Get it. Thanks. I'll move on to the next one. My boy Sam. I'd like to know how you approach doing stubble. You got it, brother. Stubble. This is a good one. I needed to rejig my brain on how I did it, but I can do it from scratch because it doesn't take very long. And I can show you what mine was. It's just a bunch of little cards like this. But let's do it from scratch. I figured that's probably the best way to do this. Because why not? So let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so any XGen, anything to do with hair, I like to have a scalp mesh, just because if I want to do anything to anything else, XGen is just super pedantic. So it's basically rip off a separate mesh and have that specifically for it. In this case, I'll just isolate this. What I would do is go to faces, duplicate this. So we'll duplicate the mesh. Let's say it's duplicated, face, and then this paint tool. And I would go through and just paint the mesh that I want. So I'm like, okay, where's my beard gonna go? Or where's my hair gonna go? Or anything like that. And just go through and paint the mesh that you want, invert, and then delete the part that you don't want. Then you've got your scalp mesh, right? and that is that. So I've just done that before. So with this, two different types of grooming. There's curves and interactive, like generating curves and placing them, and then an interactive groom, which like does it across the whole surface, which is why we would make this mesh, so that it kind of just does it to this region. Which is for like fur and things that are uniformly covered, which is what this is. So before we open, I'll just close this tab. Go over to the search bar over here. Interactive groom editor. I'm sure it's in the XGen up here somewhere as well, but I love using this search thing. It's so much easier. So select our scalp mesh and then go to create interactive groom. That all looks pretty good. Sweet, that'll do as a base. So all we want is a base, right? Now that I've got my area defined and my stuff there, I can just hit H just to hide the scalp mesh. All right, so now let's get into the fun part. So with the beard description selected, let me know if you can't see anything as well, like if my video is in the way or that thing. I'll just hit that up. People got to know to subscribe, man. Hit that like, hit the bell, and all that shit. So with the description selected, go over to attribute editor. And then in here, we can crank up the density. Okay, like what's a beard? I don't know. 10, is that too much? Let's go 7. Okay, cool. So we got that. Then, so basically jumping through these tabs is like where you'll find a lot of the different changeable things. To edit it, as long as you've got the interactive groom selected here, you can just go through, taper it off like hair is, width's probably a bit thick. Let's just do it like that for now. Yeah, it looks alright. You can probably get a bit denser with it then. Big tip with this is the scene scale. So your scene scale massively is affected by XGen. So if XGen's not working or it looks shit or it's like something's not right with it, crank the root of your file up. Like I grouped everything and upped it by 20 and it made, as you can see here, and it made my life so much easier. Like you get a way better scale of the shapes and stuff like that XGen creates. Beard shape, beard base. Let's get a little bit denser with it because I've made it thinner. Let's go 10. Sweet. So what we want to do now is this is a fun part. So if we go into XGen Groom and select our sculpt layer, then was the brush. So we've got the comb brush. Now we have the groom added. We've got the size that we want it to be, and we've got a brush that can basically affect it. I just comb, basically just interactively, and I don't know if this is like super taxing on the computer, but as you can see, like I'm running Substance, ZBrush, Photoshop, Premiere, OBS, everything at the same time, and this is pretty performant. But most importantly, I think it's, it gives a really good result of what you want, like, and you have great control over adjusting the hair to be exactly the way that you want it to be. Now I know the guy who asked this question, Sam, my boy, Sam's a games artist, so in reality, this would blow up a game engine to have, curves. Not really, I mean, it's not that bad, but 2 ways around, maybe two. One way around doing it, especially stubble, because it's so short, I would just bake it. So say you're done with the groom, right? Oh, and also the other really cool thing is when you're layering this stuff, so you can add modifiers and noise and like add a noise modifier, see, and then you get like a, I think go to attributes, noise. You can start getting like, you know, a bit funky with the modifiers and stuff, which is really cool. But also the sculpting information that I did, it's on that layer, so we can actually affect, you know, art direct it as you're grooming it, which is another really super cool thing about XGen. But say we're done, you know, that's kind of cool with the noise and stuff. Say we're done with this for whatever reason. Generate, either convert. Oh, we're already an interactive groom, but it's convert it to polygons. Combine the mesh. Cool. Convert. Did I not have that selected? Might not have had something. Cool. So now, sorry, you said stubble, but this is, that's kind of like stubble. Okay, so now we have this as a mesh, as a single FBX exportable mesh, and it's not that, it's 63k. Like this will get the job done. You know, just creates, you can see they're just little cards. What I would do is, if I was doing it for a game engine, I would export this and have it with the head mesh and just bake it in Substance, because then you'll get all the shadow information, and you could probably, you could probably have it still as a separate object in Substance. So you could add the material to it, because the ID map might look a bit weird, but then just bake it under the texture, which I think would be really cool. So that's how I do stubble, dude. Zach Ashton, what did you struggle most with this piece? Nothing. I'd probably say the fact that it's was a portrait. I had never really, that's not true, I've done a couple, but like only like at work I did a character, an actress, and we had a scan of her though. So my job was to basically redo her face and resculpt her face, but I had a scan to go off. Problem with Volk was I had only Getty images from, sorry, that's my dog. Photos from Getty Images to go off. So, and images that I found on the internet. So I think probably the toughest thing was you know, matching a photorealistic face. And the way that I do that is using cameras and reference inside of here. So let's have a look. Jesus, that's my current project. Yeah, I think that jeez. I think that my actual photos aren't in here, but what I use is Ref Switcher. So having a view, so annoying that that's in there, and then Lightbox, have your image in and have your cameras saved. I switch between my views using Ref Switcher and just get super close and into matching it perfectly to the references from every different angle. That's probably
the part that I struggled with the most, just purely because I honestly think it's one of the hardest things to do is to have a portrait that looks realistic. Like, it's not easy. Like, people struggle with it all the time. So, and I think it's the hardest thing to get right. Like, when you look at people that have done it really, really well, you can get to 80 to 90% and it doesn't, and it still might not look good. So, like, it's that extra little bit that can really crank it up, you know. So, yeah, I'd probably say that was the toughest thing. How many Mel's 1027? How many projects do you work on at the same time? I try to get out of the habit of doing multiple projects, personal projects at the same time. I'm trying to get into the habit of finishing things. Like, if I start something, I'm like, just get through this and then move on. If I do get a bit complacent on a project, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of bored with this. This is a tip that I've given before, which I think is really good, is take a part of the project and then treat that as its own little sub thing. So, like, for example, when I did the Kratos model, I was just draining me. So I was like, I'm just going to do the axe, and I'm going to do the axe from start to finish. And then, like, textures, render it, do an actual piece just of that. So, and that was a really good way of motivating me to finish the actual end of the project without sort of like burning myself out creatively on it. I think is a good way to do it. Just break up the current project you're on instead of like jumping to a whole nother project. Is probably the best piece of advice. But yeah, things that I've got going on at the same time, like, you know, whether it's work stuff or personal stuff, like, I've always got something going on cooking myself, like, just because I have to keep. I don't feel like you learn that much when you're like, it's easy just to clock in and clock out at work every day and not be learning stuff at work. So I feel like I get most of my best learning done outside of here and staying creative, you know, with YouTube stuff and Instagram and making reels and things like that. So I feel like, yeah, that's a project in itself, just doing social media. But I'd say at least I've got at least a personal project always going, and then stuff going on at work is probably best answer. Javed, Sharif, Dini, thanks so much for the questions so far, everyone. These have been great. Which renderer do you prefer to use when rendering? I rephrased that when I rewrote it down, but you said it a little bit differently, but I'm guessing that's what you meant. Even like when I said previously at the start of this stream, is I'd never used Marmoset before. I'd never used Marmoset, and I was like, okay, I'm going to give it a crack just because I want to see what the fuss is about. And it's, you know, for the most part, pretty much what people had said. It's very easy to use, and it's these eyes are killing me. I don't know why they're not coming through. There's probably a file not linked properly. Like, yeah, sorry, using Marmoset just to try to learn it. Like, as far as render engines go, there's pros and cons to every single thing, but I think that they all get you to the finish line. And I would say choosing a render engine that you're comfortable with is important, but probably the most important is, what do you want to do for work? Do you want to work in film? Do you want to work in games? Do you want to work in toy presentation? Or because usually the render engines are based on what you want to be getting into. So I think obviously if you're getting into games, real-time workflows, real-time render engines lend themselves to real-time workflows. So if you know a real-time render engine, odds are you're probably going to have to learn low high poly baking, PBR texturing, tricks around ways to cheat the end result to get a better result in engine, like things like that. So if I was to say what render engine I prefer using, I would just use what's best for the job, if that makes sense. So I'm not too precious with it as far as presentations, like portfolio stuff. You can just use whatever, even like my UVs and topology and everything. I try to keep my topology good all the time, because that's always going to bite in the butt if you don't have it right, when, you know, whether it's UVing or texturing you saw before. So I think it's just project based. I think choose your render engine based on what the project is that you're doing. And yeah, I'd say that's probably it. Learn the fundamentals first so that you feel like you can jump between anything. Like I used RenderMan for that Pixar style project that I did, and it was so difficult. Like I could have done it in like a third of the time using Arnold, but it's just so deep. Like the render engine, I'm like, this does not need to be this difficult. But it did look like Pixar. The RenderMan stuff does look like Pixar, but so I can say that there's a lot of some are a lot more difficult than others. So probably base your decision off what you want to be doing and how much you know already, or what you want to know. Rafi, what's going on, brother? I answered your question earlier. I wasn't able to hit the Unreal stuff purely because I did this in Marmoset, but the current project that I'm on at the moment is in Unreal. So I'm super keen to get that out. But yeah, if you have a look back through the lighting setup and everything, it was one of the first questions that I answered. So I just sort of went through like I can just give you like another, because it's open here. One of the biggest tips, the presentation, was the rim lighting, like, and how important rim lights are in a scene. Like if I turn these off, like how much different that looks. I mean, there's probably still more rim lights I could turn off there. Where's that one behind? Yeah, like night and day. Little halo, and then pop the shoulders, man, and the side of the head, and you've immediately got more shape and more depth. So rim lights are underrated. Rim lights. But yeah, jump back and have a look, dude. I'll get that Unreal stuff coming out real soon, so hopefully we can go through like material setup. I just want to do like an Unreal crash course and just have people ask questions, because I love Unreal and I know it's probably like what I know the best as far as engine goes. So yeah, I'm keen to do that next, dude. Let's do that next. Do you think hiring teams prefer Unreal Engine for game presentation? Yes. Does it come across more favorably? I guess, but personally more comfortable in Marmoset, but wonder if I should jump into Unreal. So a very good friend of mine, I don't know if they want to be named, I won't even say. Long story short, they're at one of the biggest game studios in the world. They are learning Unreal now. They've only been a Marmoset person before this. I think it's perfectly fine to just be a Marmoset person. I think it's like, you know, when you read a job description and it's like, you have to have this, but it'd be really nice if you had this. I think that really nice to have this at the moment is Unreal. I don't think we're far off it being like, we don't want to even, like, unless your stuff's insane, but like, I feel like they're going to be wanting the Unreal skill set as a requirement, as a prerequisite, as it's coming up, like even just a base understanding. Because as 3D artists, like to me, like for me, I'm like, man, just crash course 2 or 3 weeks in Unreal and like you'll have, I think that's going to be enough, you know, be able to make material instances, be able to set up a scene and lights and stuff like that. And it's one of the most intuitive programs I've ever used. Like I just feel it just works as far as 3D artists go. Like I feel happy in Unreal because it's just so well put together, so well made. Yeah, so to answer your question, I think right now, not so much. As I know amazing artists who work at great companies, gaming companies, that hadn't learned Unreal and they just use Marmoset. So I think think that's probably the best answer. For now, you're good, but I'd put it in the books. I'd put it in the books to learn it. As maybe one of the most important things as a game artist to be able to know. Yeah, so if you already know Marmoset, I mean, you should have the base understanding of how PBRs and textures and channels, like all that kind of stuff works. Just look up how to, or just wait, because I'm going to be coming out with something hopefully next week of how to make materials and material instances. Yeah, I would say hopefully that answers your question, brother. Crash course for character presentation next. Dude, I want to show you what I'm working on right now. Like, but I feel like, you know, I want to make a whole new thing for it. But dude, I'm glad you said that, because that is exactly what I want to be doing. Because I feel like that's what everyone wants to know. Everyone wants to know how to present characters in Unreal. So I'm keen to do that next. Which, mind you, it's what you're looking at here in Marmoset. It's just the same thing in Unreal. It's just, how do you do that? How do you create a light? How do you create a material instance? How do you block out channels? Like stuff like that. So 100% here. When you say it seems to be a bit of a gap, do you mean like there's a gap in the industry, or there's like a gap in knowledge of people? Is that what you mean? Like I need an hour-long video I can follow to present my current characters. Gotcha. Yeah. I suppose the good things take time type thing, but it's like any program. As soon as you get the fundamentals, you'll be flying through it. Like it's not gapping courses online. Yeah. No, 100%, dude. Like so many people have art. Like even I have an outdated making a character video on YouTube, and like I'd delete it if it wasn't my most viewed thing. It's got like nearly 30,000 views. I'd get rid of it because there's so many things. I did it like 2 years ago, and then now I'm like, okay, I would do things so much differently. Like after working in a game studio, after working on characters in, you know, Unreal Engine, I'm like, oh, okay, like there's a few technical errors that I definitely need to update. But that's part of it, you know. That's part of this whole industry, is just learning and adapting and changing things on the fly. So yes, I hear you, dude. 100%. We're coming in hot with that course. And like I said, the character I did, I've been working with Raf Grassetti on it. So he's been sort of giving me, make this look better, do this, and I'm getting very, very happy with it. So it won't be far. And then Raf as well, yeah. See, Raf's proving my point. Like, keen to learn more about rendering in Unreal. I've only rendered in Marmoset so far. So, yeah, like you said, there's a bit of a gap in the learning space for characters. Like, there's heaps of Unreal stuff for animation. But yeah, presenting in Unreal is a mystery right now for a lot of people. And it's hard to dig up good information on how to do it. So, yeah, we're on it, dudes. We're on it. Andrew Ferreira, I know I'm saying that wrong with my dumb Australian accent. Sup, dude. Skin texturing process using 3D Scan Store and how to apply them. Your next project you're working on. Okay, cool. Yeah, this is a good opportunity to show you, because that is exactly what I did with this. You know what I want to turn off? I'm trying to find... I don't remember where it is. I swear it's in here. Oh, it's in the cameras. That's right. It's in the cameras. Yeah, turn that film grain off, man. That was looking so dodgy. Let me... I'll just answer that quickly, dude, because it's a pretty quick question. Dragon Age Veilguard use strand-based hair. Do you see this becoming more mainstream? Short answer, yes, but there's always going to be... I don't see strand-based hair being the only type of hair. Like if they have an asset and it's just strand-based hair, that's it. Like, that's not going to be... That's not a thing. Like, I think there's definitely going to be... There's always going to need to be... there's going to be a need to have cards as well as strands because of LODs and, you know, certain performant things that they need to do. They can't just be sitting basically... Like, the Veilguard stuff, like, I've seen it, the way that's, like, falling off the shoulders and stuff like that. Whether it's cinematics or whether it's particular in-game stuff, I haven't seen whether it's in-game stuff. I'm guessing it's cinematic stuff. They would be very selective with it, and I'm sure that the need... They would still have hair cards, 100%. So right now, I don't think so. I think strand-based hair is expensive, dude. It's really expensive, obviously, because it looks dope and it, you know, reacts dope with the physics and stuff like that. So yeah, hopefully it's not that far away. But I think for the, you know, for a very, very long time still, there's still going to be a need for hair cards. I will touch on that Unreal has a hair card generator. So if you have an X-Gen Groom, say, like the one I had there with the beard, and I brought it in, you can generate cards off the Groom inside the engine, which is really, really cool. So I think that there's going to be ways around needing to make the two things and do all that. But there's a really good video, I'll try to find it after this, of that. So yeah, hopefully that answers that, brother. Next question, sorry, Andrew, was the skin texturing process using 3D Scan Store. Okay, so this was, I'll show you, how am I going to do this? How am I going to, okay, let's just mess this whole thing up, right? Okay. Let's say the pose. Okay. Yeah, this is my high res. Sweet. Okay, so there's my high res sculpt. Let's say that this is the scan from 3D Scan Store. Let's turn that texture off. Jump back up. Okay, let's say this is the scan. You know what? Let's get real easy here. Bear with me. It's gonna be helpful, trust me. Scan. Okay. So we have our scan, and what we want to do is put it onto our model. So, as you said, thank you, Silvana. Very nice. So this is our model. Let's go low res. Let's just even delete the higher. So we got there, and we've got a scan. And we're like, okay, we want to wrap our scan to our model. You said it before. Z-wrap. Z-wrap's the way to go. I already stuffed something up. I shouldn't have had it at extremely high res. I should have dropped it. Which is probably why it's chugging right now. Definitely shouldn't have hit that when it was on maximum. Can I cancel it? Damn, how do I get rid of that now? It's just stuck in the middle of the screen. Oh, so annoying. Yeah, go away. Close. Yes. Thank you. Okay. Let's go back to... Let's drop him down. Just so we can see. Okay. Cool. So what I would do... Okay, again, got around the wrong way. This, I always have this issue. So Volk pose, we want to put there. My bad, guys. Okay. So you would go through, you know, mark all the markers for the, so I want the scan to go to my model. Yada, 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 yada. I kind of don't want to go through and do it all because it's going to take ages. Let's just see how jank I can do it. 5%. 3, 4, 5, 6. There. One on the nose, one there. Eight, 9, there. See how good this program is, can just do this in. They're very similar heads, so, I mean, it's the same head, it's just different thing. So let's go wrapping. This is just a proof of point, so obviously I would have gone. Not bad, good enough. Good enough for this. Good enough. Cool. Okay, so now what we've got is the scan wrapped to the head. Now, what I like to do, say Volk, what we've got here, I've got this crummy little, you know, low res thing, or even if we've got high res, hold up, there we go.
Okay, so he's 3 million. Like we've sculpted our head and it's got no detail, but we've just wrapped a scan that's got dope details to it, like this, and we want to project those details on. So what I can do is, and project, if this scan had a couple of those scans, obviously come with textures, right? So we've got our scan textures. Now let's take off okay. So Volk has this one. This is just our sculpt, right? We just made a nice sculpt, divided it up. Now we want to put on scanned detail and scanned color. Without UVs, without any of it. We just want to mash it on. We've done all the hard work by wrapping the scan. So the scan is now wrapped to the head. What we can do is project all. Make sure that nothing is, yeah, that's above. Polypaint data, yes. Fingers crossed it doesn't die. Okay. Look at that. Now we've got our polypaint data. So the problem is, this head, the scan, that's a texture. So it actually projected the polypaint data, which is that. So what if we turn the polypaint data into texture? So go into polypaint from texture. Now our model, all the color information is in the verse, it's not in the texture. So if we run that exact same process again, sorry, just getting some beats going again. So if we run that exact same thing again, didn't set a morph target, which is why that's all janked out. But as you can see, the important thing is we've got the color information is now in the vertices of our low res. So see, as I'm going up and down, all the polypaint data is the scan texture and the detail. Now the beauty of this is we can UV this. So this doesn't even need to have UVs to have this color information right now. What we can do is we can actually convert that polypaint to a texture. So if we go to texture map, create texture off from polypaint. Now we've created our own texture from the scan to polypaint to there. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing, but for the most part, what we're doing is we're wrapping the scan to it and we're just projecting on the color and the detail and then converting the polypaint data to a texture. So hopefully that's helpful, dude. Let's just go back to where he's not so ugly. See, it worked well the first time. I think it's because I had some rogue stuff in there, but hopefully that helps, brother. It's a bit of a tough process
But it means, this is a really good workaround, so you don't need to be using Mari, and you can keep the scanned color information and then create your own texture based on your UVs that way. It's a really good workflow. So hopefully you got that through and it sort of like clicked, because I know after a couple of times I've done it, it clicked, and I love doing it. Basically means that you can get the color and detail information from any scan to any model and project it onto your UV set. If you need any more help with that, dude, definitely hit me up, and I'll be happy to help. Silvana, where do you render? This one was in Marmoset, but for everything else, yeah, Unreal, Arnold, depending on the project and what I want to be doing, is that. So that's looks like all the questions, unless anyone else in the chat's got anything else. Thanks so much to everyone in the Discord and Instagram for sending those questions through. Even if you wanted to know the answer to them or not, or just you're just being supportive, that's awesome. One other thing that I do have, I'll just get for you guys. It's actually somewhat of a special code for 3 months free. So I'll put this in the description as well. But this is my code for Style 3D, which is this program here. It's basically Marvelous Designer. So I'll just get this cranking for you and I'll show you what it's like. You can see these guys have been really good to me. Have been liking what we're doing on the channel. It's basically Marmoset, and they've given me a free 3-month license to anyone who wants it. So what I'll do is I'll put the code here. You know what, I'm going to put it in the description of the video. There's a code and an email, so just email them and send them the code, and they'll send you a free 3-month license of Style 3D. And it's great. It's really, really responsive. It's sort of like the Blender version of Marvelous Designer, which I think as a concept is really, really cool. They're great people. They want to help. There's a lot of tutorials online about it. But yeah, so there's a free 3-month license there for anyone who wants to get it. I'll just drop my code in there. And then get it, and if you have any questions about Style 3D, let me know. But other than that, guys, I think that's going to be me for the morning. Just discovered your channel, already joined Discord. Thank you, Silvana. If there's anything else, I think you might be the last person in here for now. If there's anything you want to know, let me know. But other than that, I'm super pumped to get this next video out, the Unreal one. Because like you said, doesn't really seem like anyone really cares about Marmoset. They want to know about Unreal, and I get it, because Unreal is the new kid, on the block sort of thing, and it's just, it's what everyone wants to be learning, and I think it's the right way for people's mindset to be. It is sort of the way of the future. So thanks to everyone who came in, asked questions. I'll catch you in the next one, and thanks a lot. Thanks for the support, everyone. I'll see you soon. Catches.